Welcome to Discover a New Future, a show geared at empowering women to be the best versions of themselves. I'm your host, Faith Saunders. September 11, 2001 is one day that many of us will never ever forget. And it's a day that we wish that we could forget for one major reason. And today we're going to be talking about what positive things that can actually come out of tragedies. And I came across a quote by the Dalai Lama that says, when we meet real tragedy in life, we can react in two ways, either by losing hope and falling into self-destructive habits, or by using the challenge to find our inner strength. And that's one of the things that I really admire about my today's guest, Bill Keegan, that he used this tragedy to impact so many people's lives in such a positive way. Bill, I am so honored to have you as my guest today. I think maybe that's why I was a little bit nervous starting out.
Thank you, Faith. It's really a pleasure to be here with you.
Likewise. Let me just tell a little bit about who you are. Bill Keegan is a retired Port Authority police lieutenant, I'm correct?
Correct.
Right? Special Ops, and he's the founder and president of Heart 9/11. And you'll be hearing so much more about Heart 9/11 and the wonderful work that they're doing. So Bill, before we actually even get into all of this, I'm just curious, what were you doing on September 11th, 2001? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I think like most people, you can't forget where you were when you first heard the news or turned on the TV and saw those horrific images. I was with my middle daughter, and we were at Mountainside Hospital for specialized treatment, and we were going in for a communications evaluation. Pulled into the parking lot for a 9 o'clock appointment, and received a phone call saying that a small plane had crashed into the one tower of the World Trade Center. And shortly thereafter, when we were inside, we heard screams from people as they were watching their TVs and saw the second plane come into the buildings. And I then knew right away that this was a terrorist attack and that our country was under attack.
Right.
And then the Pentagon also was hit, and then the plane went down in the fields in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And it certainly changed my life. It changed
all of our lives.
So many of our lives, the way the world operated, and it became a new normal for us moving forward. I left the hospital around 10 o'clock, made my way into New York City, and was debriefed as to what was happening down at the Trade Center. I made my way down into what was called at that time the pile. And still smoldering, and was caught in the Building 7 collapse with some of the smoke and cloud of debris that came out of that.
Wow.
And the next day I came back to the Trade Center, and I was named the operations commander for the Port Authority Police Department for the night tour. So we split the response into two tours, a day tour for 12 hours and a night tour. So from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every night for the next 9 months, I came to the World Trade Center and oversaw the rescue recovery operation.
It's a big responsibility.
It was an incredible responsibility, especially how dangerous it was, and I felt that very heavily, as all the supervisors from the FDNY, the NYPD, and the Port Authority Police Department, to make sure that we were safe. And one of our mantras there is not to lose one more person to those 19 cowards that took down the buildings. And that was what we emphasized to our people, and that kept us safe. And I think God was looking out over us. As you might remember, back then, it was a very mild winter, thankfully, because that is a very difficult area to work, where the two rivers kind of come to the point down in lower Manhattan, and it could have been brutally cold. But I think somebody was looking out after us. And that might have been our first sign that, to your point in the introduction, I think there's an inner strength in each of us, but that inner strength is so bolstered when people come running to us.
That's true.
And I think that that's really where we find the goodness in the world, is in each individual. And I think it triggered that in so many people, where they found it in themselves, this overwhelming desire to come to the World Trade Center, either through letters or prayers or physically be there. And we felt it, certainly. And we felt this country come together, congeal in a way that it hadn't in such a long time. And that gave us our strength.
Wow.
To look inside ourselves and realize that we could get up off our knees and do this job for the people that were waiting at home for answers about their loved ones.
Wow. And in a sense, what I'm hearing you say is that it helped you to realize that this is bigger than us. It's not about me. It's bigger, you know. And I think that's really what I admire about what you're actually doing, because you took this tragedy, and actually turned it around to impact so many people's lives. And that brings me to my next question. How did you do that?
I think seeing that, feeling that in a real way, the love that was showered upon us. And it was transactional, because I think a lot of people saw us, you know, digging with our hands in the beginning, just trying to remove debris, sort of a passionate work that everybody recognized. Wow, they're still working. They're there and they're working. So let us. So they were sending us love, and we were representing to them the courage and bravery that they had hoped Americans would have. And it kind of became a quid pro quo moving forward. Wow. So we fed off of each other. The country fed off of us. We fed off of the country. And that's what made it so perfect. And we realized that our expertise, no matter how challenged it was at that time, because who could have ever imagined this level of destruction and having to do this building collapse, would challenge us in such a way that we knew that we needed to bring our full expertise and experience to the job.
Right.
And that, when I recognized that we, even in the face of that, could overcome, and I realized that we did it with help of others, and we did it for people. So what I realized is that when you do things for others, the back and forth, that I was actually getting more out of this than maybe I was giving.
That's so true.
And I realized that it had raised me up, not just professionally, but personally. And looking in the eyes of people that I was working with, the camaraderie, and many military people will talk about this, you know, that in the face of horror and danger, they looked to each other. And we started to have that bond, and that carried us through. So when it came time to retire, which was a few years after the 9/11 rescue recovery mission, I had noticed that so many of the people who had retired also were kind of floundering. They didn't have a purpose anymore. They realized that the job they had done as cops or firemen was not only for money, but it was because they liked helping people. And it had become who they were. And because they were no longer doing it, they didn't know who they were.
Exactly.
So what we did with Heart 9/11 is we gave them that purpose again. I went to them and said, how about we do on a volunteer basis what we used to do for a living?
Wow. Can you repeat that for me?
Why don't we do on a volunteer basis what we used to do for a living?
Wow.
That we were trained at a huge cost, over 20, 25, 30 years of working in the metropolis of New York City, where every day was a challenge in one way or another, whether it's something small or something big. You know, airplanes landing in the Hudson River with Sully. I mean, you know, who would have thought that that type of rescue would happen so quickly and so thoroughly and so safely? So these are, so why just allow that to dissipate? Let's engage it. Let's engage each other. Plus, it gives us back that camaraderie. It gives us back hanging out with people who had done something together that was so meaningful in their lives, and allows us to talk to each other.
Wow.
And it just really took off. So we have people that would say to us, we were down right after Katrina, and we would go down and people would say, I can't believe you people are here to help us. We should be helping you. You went through that hard. I said, no, you helped us. And now we're here to help you.
Right.
And that's what's so engaging about the Heart 9/11 work.
That's so powerful, and they continue to help you because, as you just said so eloquently earlier, when you help someone, you get back so much more.
Correct.
From that.
Yeah, it's a very famous quote that I never feel so selfish as when I'm giving.
Wow.
And it really
Never
is
heard that
true.
before. That's great.
Yeah, it really is true.
Wow, wow. So I know you guys have done so much, and ladies, I'm sure you have ladies
Oh,
on your
absolutely.
team. Okay.
Yeah.
Have done wonderful work. Can you share with us some of the things that Heart 9/11 has done since its inception? Just give us some.
Sure. So we've been all over responding to disasters. It's one of the things we do. Obviously, we're first responders, and many of us are FEMA trained responders, and we'll go down to the Katrina aftermath. We've been to Nashville, Tennessee with the flooding. We've been back to New Orleans on 2 different occasions with flooding. We were in Moore, Oklahoma with the tornadoes. We were to Haiti after the 2010 earthquake. I've been to Haiti at least 15 times.
Wow.
Heart 9/11's been there over 20 times. We've built pharmacies, clinics, over 100 homes. We've built a school system called Foi et Joie for the Jesuits that teach down there. We've also been to Ecuador just recently after their earthquake, and we built 40 homes in just 5 days for people whose lives have been destroyed. And
Wow.
the really cool thing about doing that, I think, to a person would tell you, is that the people who we're building the homes for were living in small little tents just outside of the area we were building. So they as a family were coming in and helping build their own homes and watching us give them the expertise in how to do this. And our hope is, which is what we did in Haiti with the Foi et Joie school system, we taught them how to use tools, how to build. And the old saying, you know, you
Teach a
give
man
a-
how.
teach a man how to fish. And we taught both men and women in Haiti how to do that, and we're doing the same thing in Ecuador. What we're going to do and follow up in Ecuador also is that it is a really a country that's made incredible progress. But their building codes, their emergency evacuations are very lacking. So they've got these big, beautiful buildings, but when an emergency occurs, they don't know how to get out. So what we're going to do is save lives ahead of time. So we're going to try to get in there and teach the local first responders our skills from New York City on how to get people in and out of buildings quickly.
You're giving me
safely.
goosebumps by saying that,
Yeah.
because I think that's one of the key things. I say this all the time. I'm from Jamaica, and I think a lot of times, sometimes we feel that the best way to help someone is to just to give to them. But I think the way that we sustain and help someone to grow when we are not there is by teaching them, as you just said earlier. So I see what you're doing is not only helping individuals by building, but also helping them to sustain themselves in the future, themselves and their families and communities in the future. And that is so powerful. That's something that will live on way beyond, way beyond what you have left, the time that you have left. So that's wonderful. That's really wonderful.
And what we noticed was is that, like with the Haitian people especially, because we did spend a lot of time over years there, they want to learn. They're like sponges. They want to impact positively their community, and the community looks to them. And it goes back and forth where they felt good about themselves because they could help their neighbors. And it gave them a reason to move forward. And wouldn't it be interesting if the earthquake, with its really horrible devastation, but it did become a platform for communities to move forward in ways that they wouldn't have had they not gone through that earthquake, survived it, conquered it, and moved forward with their lives.
Right. And that it's just show of our resilience, when we go through the 9/11s, the earthquakes, etc. It's so devastating, but it really shows the human resilience, our power to actually overcome and move forward,
Exactly. And when we responded to Sandy the next day, we wound up in Queens, in Brooklyn, in New York City. And what we did is that we started moving in right away to gut people's homes. And what you do is you meet people whose lives have just been devastated. And now you're taking out their couches. You're taking out their kitchen. So many of the wives, it's their kitchen. It's where their family hung. It's where they had their family dinners. And here it's all being thrown out on the curb, everything that they have. Our experiences as first responders our experiences as being victims also during 9/11 allowed us to have a more empathetic, compassionate view towards those people. So not only did we gut their homes, but we started building them up and telling them about hope. And it's a unique message coming from somebody that they watched during 9/11, crying and trying to overcome our own. And now we're here, so we have a real validation of what they're going through and that they can get better. And that was the beginning of, we realized that bond, when we gave them answers about their house, and we're going to rebuild this house. We rebuilt over 240 homes in Gerritsen Beach, Brooklyn,
Wow.
in that area, in just 55 weeks. And the way we did that is by completely gutting the house, putting in all new flooring, putting in insulation and sheetrock so that they could begin their lives ahead of time. But why put a family into a new home when the family is fractured?
Right.
Because they're all fractured. They have to put themselves together. And we realized how important our message can be to those people, which led us then to Newtown, Connecticut.
Wow.
Okay, there probably is no more horrific image than those poor children and the teachers that were killed on that day.
Wow.
And what happened is that the first responders in Newtown were so conscious of what they needed to do in their duty. They hadn't taken care of themselves. And it was starting to manifest itself sometime later. And we were asked as Heart 9/11 to come up and work with those first responders. We spent 15 months
Wow.
with them, hanging out with them, listening to them, seeing what their needs were, breaking down the concrete that they had to build around themselves to be able to deal with what they were dealing with. Take that concrete away and then sort of work building them back up. And it was so rewarding to us, and it was such a good program that we're trying to expand this program with the Harvard School of Medicine and the Benson Henry Institute, which is about mindfulness and wellness. And we're trying to bring that to first responders.
Wow.
Because, as we've seen lately, police officers are under an awful lot of stress. What better way to give them tools to deal with that stress that doesn't have self-medication or being angry?
Right.
And dealing with the community in a more effective way because they're calmer. And so the Benson Henry Institute is already working with the military in some of these ways. And we're going to take that program to first responders throughout this country.
That's awesome.
And that's how we feel ourselves affecting. So we can go in at a time of a disaster and help out, or we can go in and at a time of disaster and work with those first responders who have seen so much terror. There's also another word that I've learned, two words: moral injury. Volunteers of America came to me and said, you know, Bill, we really feel as if moral injury brings a lot more to the table when you're trying to recover than maybe we're giving credit for. It's where your compass has been thrown off. Everything that you believe is right, like children in a classroom, teaching with teachers, and all of a sudden the horror of thinking of that. You know, even if you're not there, even if you didn't see it or had to deal with it,
Experience it, yeah.
it upsets all of our. It's the same thing at the Trade Center. To be at work and to be fine and have a plane fly into it and then have that building collapse. It upsets our whole way of thinking. And it leads us sometimes to some really bad decisions as to how to get that moral
back, because we want to get back into the equilibrium. Why can't I speak today? But yeah, we want to get back to, you know, that core.
Exactly. So we're in a unique position because we're with people at that time of disaster and mass casualty type things. So now we can bring that next piece to them. And we feel as if then that, you know, being able to help them deal with this situation and preventatively moving forward by teaching them meditation, by teaching them yoga, by allowing them, Tai Chi and things like this. People don't realize this is no longer just kumbaya, I think it works. This is now being proven scientifically that it works, that your body can react in a different way to these really horrible messages that are being sent at you on an ongoing basis. Whether it's one incident or whether it's a multitude over years of things. And so that's our next level of response.
Wow.
So we're really good to, glad to be able to help people. We're working with the veterans. We've built so many veteran homes now because there's not always a disaster that we need to respond to. So how do we keep our people together? Well, we keep our people together by giving them training opportunities, which means building homes for veterans or modifying their homes.
Wow.
They were sent as a result of 9/11 overseas, and now they're coming back and they're injured. They have invisible wounds sometimes of PTSD,
Right.
or they have very obvious wounds where they've lost limbs. We try to help put them back together again, but we want to bring veterans into our building groups so that they feel empowered and they're helping a brother or sister and they start to feel really good about themselves. Second piece, sometimes they don't really understand why they went overseas. I think we're all conflicted about that. Well, when they work with the 9/11 responders, they're given that reason.
Right.
I lost my brothers, I lost my sisters, I lost my family, I did this and this. And they feel it automatically that the real camaraderie with this group of people, and they start to feel, okay, it was worthwhile. I did do it for these people and others, and now look to these people, wow, look where they are now today. I can get there too.
Wow. What healing. I mean, you started out with initially this initiative, Heart 9/11, to help yourself and your colleagues to heal. But it's like a rippling effect. You had no vision that where you started out is where you are today is where you're going to start out, talking about mindfulness and all of these different ways of actually helping people to deal emotionally, because I think that's one of the key pieces. We can build somebody's home, rebuild that, but we can't. The home with itself, that physical, doesn't necessarily heal the emotional pain that so many people go through. And the PTSD, as you so eloquently spoke about, is something that so many individuals, especially individuals who are veterans, go through. And I'm so intrigued to hear that you're doing the work that you're doing to help people to heal emotionally. Because one of the key things, this macho kind of image, I know. Yoga, that's why I said yoga. Yoga, mindfulness. Some people think that's fluff, and I can't do that. That's for someone else, just not me. But I think that one of the greatest way of actually helping individuals is that peer-to-peer. When you as someone who is a first responder can talk to another individual who's going through a police or someone else who's gone through a tragedy, is a total different dialogue than, say, even me just talking to that person, because you can relate to what that person is going through.
Exactly. See, there's the message and there's the messenger. And if they're both not in sync, they don't work.
Right.
So you could have a Harvard professor, brilliant person, come in and speak to first responders. It's not going to hit the target.
Exactly.
And the message is great.
Exactly.
It's scientifically proven. They can't dispute it. But the messenger is wrong for that population. We, though, going through these courses in Harvard, we're learning the neurobiology. We're speaking the language that allows even a police officer, firefighter, a logical progression of what happens to you. Take it from us, it happened to me, it happened to my friends. And we're able to tell personal stories, which opens them up, unlocks them for the message of, here's a way that you can help yourself. Just try it, meditate. Now, tell me you didn't feel different.
Right.
And the more you do this, the better you will feel. And this is something you can do before you go into your firehouse and when you leave. Just a few minutes alone to lower the temperature within you. So when you go home, you're open to enjoy your family rather than bringing a job home. So many times we think we're insulating our family by not talking about things. We never bring the job home. And I think so many people, I'm not going to let it contaminate my family. Well, you're really doing worse because they feel it.
Right.
If you could go home and have a smile because you're in a different place, you put what the job did to you that day in a different place, well, then your family life is going to be better.
Totally
your life
different.
is going to be better.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Wow. So how can we, myself as well as our viewers, help Heart 9/11?
Well, obviously, we're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3, and we were established back in 2007. And what we are mostly are police, firemen, and the New York City building trades, the unions, that came to help us during that post 9/11 attacks. And so we have a level of expertise and experience that's a little bit further along than a lot of other groups that do similar work. And what we like to do is, you know, obviously we need dollars to continue our work, but we also take on people that want to volunteer, corporations and companies that may find that working with this specific group of people that went through what we've gone through would be good for their company. So we look for corporate sponsorships where we'll take your employees with us and we'll help them learn how to help other people. We also then are very open about what we've been through. And I think that a lot of companies and corporations, that would be very good to see the teamwork. I mean, that's in corporate communications and teamwork.
Right.
And they can learn it from us, how we did it down at the Trade Center and how we continue to do it moving forward.
Wow.
So those are two of the opportunities that I offer to people that would like to help us.
Wow. Wow. And we know how you can actually, what you have been doing to help others. I'm going to kind of give you a question that initially it's coming off the top of my head. What legacy do you want to leave to this world?
Isn't that interesting? I always called the Heart 9/11 a living legacy of so many of our friends that were killed on that day and their family. I knew them so well, and they were such great people. We go to all of the funerals, as many as we could make, and the eulogies. You know, they weren't just cops and firemen. They were the religious teacher in their parish. They were the coach of the girls' basketball team. They were the Cub Scout leader. They were doing so much in their community also, and that would come through in some ways that I didn't even know, because it was when they went home and how they kept doing it. So that legacy of selflessness, to run into a building that's on fire, that's a mess, to be able to do that for others was why Heart 9/11 was started. We thought that was the best memorial, not something made of concrete, and some of them are very beautiful, don't get me wrong, but to really build something that takes that and moves it forward. So the legacy of Heart 9/11, I hope, is that you can have an impact on people, that helping will heal yourself.
Wow.
And that's what I'm trying to tell people, is that when you have the experience and the expertise that we have, we need to share it.
Wow.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. You know, time goes by when you're having fun, and today, really, it was really a pleasure having you, Bill. I learned so much, and just the work that you're doing is just so remarkable. And I wish you all the best moving forward. And you have our support in whatever way that we can actually be of support to you moving forward also. And to my guests, I really hope that you will visit Heart 9/11 website. Can you tell us what that is?
It's Heart, HEART 911.org.
Perfect. Visit their website, see what they're actually doing, and come out, volunteer, donate, whatever ways that you can actually support this organization, because they are doing wonderful work. Well, until next time, think positively.